Ugandan Member of Parliament Bobi Wine has been charged with treason in a civilian court. Earlier, he was released by a military court, but his reprieve lasted only moments before he was rearrested. Police have now sealed off the homes of a number of politicians, and high-profile opposition figure Kizza Besigye has been arrested as part of a wider crackdown. Now, tensions have been raised across the country, and it has sparked international protests. Now, this was the scene earlier today in London. Demonstrations have also taken place in Kenya's capital, Nairobi. The BBC's Catherine Biaruhanga reports.
This was Bobi Wine's first public appearance in 10 days, and it was visibly overwhelming. A military court had just set him free.
You are accordingly set free unless being held on other charges.
His injuries from his time in custody were visible. He couldn't walk or stand by himself. Soldiers are accused of torturing him. President Museveni called the allegations fake news. But Bobi Wine soon found himself in yet another court.
The charge you are charged with is capital in nature.
This time he was charged with treason by a magistrate. Many believe all of this is happening because he's a major critic of Mr. Museveni's policies. Authorities have deployed heavily to prevent protests against his detention, including here in his hometown of Kamwokya.
Ugandans deserve more opportunities. They're talented. We have many resources, but they're not used the way they're supposed to be used.
From here, Bobi Wine was able to create a new life for himself and become a cultural icon. Now he's taking on the president of the country. How long can he sustain his fight? One man who knows what it takes to challenge Mr. Museveni is Kizza Besigye. He stood against the president in 4 elections. He was arrested yet again today as he tried to visit Bobi Wine. He says his young colleague should brace himself.
Every liberation of any people has a cost, and that cost must be borne by some people, and certainly those who are most concerned, the citizens. So the citizens of Uganda must pay the cost for their freedom.
After more than 30 years, President Museveni is accused of holding on to power through violence, intimidation, and voter bribery. His supporters say he's in power with the backing of the people.
Why would the president go all over the whole country? In like the last election, we had over 300 rallies, political rallies, being held, asking people vote for me, and people vote for him. And other candidates go around the country. People ask vote for me and they vote for them. And then we wait for announcement on the election.
Bobi Wine is still on remand for at least another week. His supporters were overjoyed to see him out of military custody. But this pop star is quickly learning that the new path he's chosen won't be easy. Catherine Biaruhanga, BBC News, Kampala.
Well, earlier I spoke to Simon Wolf, one of Bobi Wine's international lawyers. He was in Uganda for his client's military proceedings, which, of course, were abandoned.
There is a pattern in this case of trying to obfuscate the ability of counsel to prepare. Evidenced yesterday by not being able to meet my client, evidenced by the fact that in the middle of the night they moved him to Gulu, which was a deliberate attempt not only to limit the media coverage, not only to ensure that Bobi felt intimidated and isolated, but also to avoid the lawyers being able to attend. The fact that they would have to go in the middle of the night under a cloud of secrecy in order to represent their client is abhorrent.
So how is he, given what you're telling me, how is he doing?
Well, he's been through a horrific time, as you know. I mean, undergoing torture inflicted upon you by the state when you are a prominent opposition leader is isolating and horrific. He's despondent. I mean, this is his country that's done this to him.
Now, your firm is currently in the process of submitting some petitions and applications before some multinational bodies. You, in fact, are talking about individual sanctions against some Ugandan officials involved in torture. Who do you have in mind?
I won't talk specifically about who those sanctions might be brought against, but I will say that our role is to focus international attention on the actions of the Ugandan government. And that might take place by various means, including agitating for such sanctions. It also includes making applications to UN bodies and to harnessing and speaking with governments in the EU, in the US and elsewhere to force them to have conversations that perhaps they don't want to have, to hold the Ugandan government to account. Because torturing an opposition leader is unacceptable.
So given the political situation right now, how confident are you, though, that you will get the desired outcome?
The political situation changes by the hour, so it's difficult to be able to answer that question with any sort of authority. But I am certain that if the movement around Bobi continues and that international actors step in and ask the government why they've behaved in the way that they've done and why they've tried to cover it up, I'm sure that progress can be made. I mean, and we will not rest until that happens.